For this exercise today, we created two main objectives. The first one was just the logistics of setting up an exercise like this, but then also the team's response to a surprise scenario, because even though we had these common objectives that everybody knew about and understood, the actual day of scenario was a surprise. We wanted to make sure that it was more or less representative of what a team might see in a real activation. So even though there's a temptation to come up with this crazy storyline with ridiculous characters, we came up with close to real life scenarios, challenges, personas that you'd see out here in the community.
We knew that we were going to be setting up a reception center, which meant that something in our local neighborhood had occurred that would require people to come in and ask for help. So registering evacuees from the circumstance and then offering them support.
There's been a big fire in an apartment, and we've been asked by Vancouver Fire Rescue to set up a reception center. Essentially, it'll just be registration and referrals. So if you guys can get set up, I'm heading back to the site and I'll be back a little bit later.
We were informed that the bus was on the way and we would be having evacuees here shortly. So there were a number of actions that we had to take. One was to go to our ESS container. That's where our bins were, and the bins contain all of the kit that goes to supplying a reception center. The paperwork, the vests, first aid. In the meantime, we laid out an organization of what we thought might work for the reception center.
Through our personas, we tried to get Zone E to consider each of the roles and each of the steps along the chain that a typical evacuee would pass through. We also considered, the logistics of having a large number of people in a relatively small room. So we tried to have a couple of competing needs to see how Zone E would balance those out. I think the most important part for a role player to keep in mind is that all of this is really for the people carrying out the exercise. There's a purpose behind their role and behind the different personality quirks that we've worked into the scenario.
We followed the incident command system. The reception center manager, I fulfilled that role. We had an operations manager facilitating the registration and referral action. In addition to that operational function, we had a planning function to do a quality control on the paperwork that was being produced and then to coordinate and organize that paperwork.
I'm logistics chief. I'm handling the lodging side of the resources. If the building is no longer safe for the evacuees to return, we will put them up into certain hotels. I arrange the lodging with the hotels and provide them to the members here.
My role today is meet and greet. My job is to get people settled in so that they don't overcrowd the rooms. If they need medical assistance, give them medical assistance, show them where the washrooms are, get them water if they need, just meet them, make them comfortable while we try and process people as fast as we can.
What we're practicing today is what's called a one-stop model. So you'll see some tables here. They will register and make referrals. They could have meals, they might have groceries, maybe they need medication. And we also find out how many adults, how many children, what kind of referrals we're making, that kind of thing. But the real purpose of registration is family reunification, matching those people with their families and with the things that they need.
A couple of the other supportive functions, we had a runner and we had a person who was responsible for pets and first aid. Even though we had a fairly limited number of people doing the exercise, we actually were able to cover the functions pretty well. We learned a lot, we progressed a lot, we did a lot of the activities. Then the debrief came, and that was fantastic because it allowed us to see from the outside in where the sticky points were, where things weren't going particularly well and where we could add some improvements. Faced with this sort of a circumstance, how we would actually organize ourselves and then perform. I think on a larger scale, and perhaps more important, at the city level, it builds that sense of, what we're doing is really important.